Hey guys, it's Kevin in my review for Little Monsters. And what Little Monsters is essentially about is we center on the character of Dave, and he is someone who is very much a loser. He's just recovered from a really bad breakup, but he's also a washed-up musician and basically has almost no direction in his life. So he ends up moving into his sister's house, and basically she gives him the sole responsibility of taking care of her son. So he has to do what he can to now protect him. So while he decides to you'd basically accompany him to this school trip he's going on. Basically, while this is all happening, in the midst of it, this zombie apocalypse starts to happen, and basically he has to do what he can to protect the kids, but also try to hopefully make sure that everyone comes out of this alive, and that's really all I'm going to say. So, Little Monsters overall, I was very excited for this film. This seemed like it was going to be something really different and refreshing. I really liked the cast behind it. I heard a lot of, praise coming out of, like, Sundance and things like that. So, I was really hoping this could be something really good. And Little Monsters honestly exceeded my expectations. This is a wholly original and just really different kind of zombie film that we really haven't seen anything like before, which I'll definitely get more into, but one I really do adore for sure. And we're just getting to right now, starting off with the cast. And easily one of the best parts of this movie is, in fact, the cast. I think everyone really does give 100% here. I don't really think there is a weak link in the entire ensemble for sure. I really did love everyone here. But let's first talk about Lupita Nyong'o. I mean, she's one of the best actresses working today. She's already, given one of the best performances of the year in Us. And here, again, she just really shows her range as a character of Miss Caroline, because it's a completely different character. She's someone who's so nurturing and sweet and really makes it her sole duty to do whatever she can to protect the kids and things like that. And Nyong'o just is such a great range to her. You can tell she's having so much fun in this role. She's so much fun to watch as well, and it just radiates off the screen. And I really love what she ended up doing here. I think she gave another really strong performance, and like I said, just continues to show why she's one of the most dynamic actresses working today. But it really is Alexander England that just anchors this entire film. He hasn't really been marketed that much from the trailers, but he very much is the main character here, and he does an incredible job in this movie. He does a really good job of being charismatic, even though the character, as charismatic as you can for the type of character that he's playing, but he also does a really good job of just being really fun and entertaining. I overall just really enjoyed him in this movie. I haven't really seen a ton of him, but I really hope I do after this film, because I thought he was just really great here for sure. Really carried the movie quite well, and him and Lupita Nyong'o's chemistry is so spot on. These two work very well together. I was very impressed with where they ended up going as actors, and I thought they just worked really well here. The rest of the cast also does a really great job here for sure. Josh Gad gives maybe one of the best performances he ever has as a character, Teddy McGiggles, who is not the fun, loving, and just energetic role that Gad usually takes. Yes, he seems that way, but in reality, this is a guy who is incredibly sardonic and is just really just disillusioned by what he's been doing, and you can see how just jaded he's become and is pretty much an asshole, but Gad just relishes every single bit of this character, and it makes for maybe one of the funniest characters of the entire year. I thought he did such a great job here. Stewart is really good as Dave's sister Tess. I thought she was very strong here. Even the kid actors I thought were really great in this movie. I thought they did a really great job here, particularly Diesel La Torca, I think is how you pronounce his name. He plays the main kid here, Felix, and I thought he was fantastic here. He had such a energy and just so much fun to him, and it really wasn't a single child actor room. Like, they feel an experience. Like, these guys felt like they fit into the film quite well, and I really did love how experienced they really did feel here. I think everyone really did such a great job with this film. But now I really want to get to the directing and the writing, because that is what really makes this film stand out to me. Abe Forsythe's directing here is fantastic. And look, I'll just get out of the way. Are there going to be comparisons done to Shaun of the Dead with this movie? Absolutely. I think similar to Anne the Apocalypse last year, I think any comedy film that involves zombies is going to be unjustifiably compared. But I'll just say right now, within the first few minutes, that definitely should not be a thing, because this film is going for something much different. Yes, it is very much taking place during a zombie apocalypse, but it's far more lighthearted than you really are expecting. It's much more of a comedy than anything, and the comedy is so great here. This is a frequently hilarious film that had me in stitches pretty much throughout, and again, it's mainly due to how Forsythe approaches the material here. He's going for something far more wholesome and authentic, and I really did appreciate that here for sure. Yes, there are definitely horror moments, but anytime you think the movie's going to get too serious, it goes back to the comedy, and I think he does a really great job with that here, and you can just see how much passion he put into it. And I heard somewhere that, like, he kind of directed this film. The whole reason it was made, it was basically supposed to be, like, a dedication to, like, his son and things like that. And you just very much see how passionate he was about this project, and it really was put into the directing. But the writing here is what really stuck out to me. This is a very character-driven film, and that's something I really did appreciate about. This is not a film that's overly concerned about, you know, zombie attacks and seeing characters get killed. No, it's far more about these characters, and especially when it comes to our main lead here, Dave. I mean, he is someone that could be very hard to latch onto, but the film does a lot to get you to really care about him, whether it's early on in the film where you see him having this fight with his girlfriend, and you see things really not working out for them, and yeah, this is not a guy that is particularly likable at first. He is just very lazy. He doesn't want to commit to a lot of things. The reason him and his girlfriend break up especially is very much pathetic, but as the film goes on, you start to see why he is this way. You start to see what's turned him into this, like I said, this just directionless person that he has, and how much potential that he really did have, and I really did love seeing that, but also how him being in this apocalypse with the children, has very much strengthened him as a person, and that's something that I really did appreciate here for sure, and I think the film does a really good job with that here. But it's especially the character of Miss Carolyn. That's the character that I think people are really going to gravitate towards, and that's the thing that I think really did sell this movie, in that, again, the film is not about the children trying to get away from a zombie apocalypse. It's instead about Miss Carolyn trying to convince them that there isn't a zombie apocalypse, and that they are instead, you know, that this is all a game, basically, and she's trying to distract them from it, and that character is so well written. She could have easily become very annoying, but you see just, again, the efforts that she puts into helping these kids. She's doing whatever she can to make sure that they come out of this alive. They are her top priority, and Miss Caroline as a character ends up being very likable because of that. But you also do see that she herself has done some rebellious things. There's a great scene, for example, involving her and Dave, and you actually do see how similar these two really are, how they really do end up being like these kindred spirits, and I really did love seeing that. It didn't feel forced at all, and it gave us a very good idea of like who these characters are besides what they're seeing them as, and I really did appreciate that for sure, and I think that stuff is really well done. And like I said, the film is also consistently funny. I mean, there are so many just hilarious moments throughout this film. A lot of that is really due to the irony of it all, the way that Miss Caroline continually tries to get away from this apocalypse and try to make it seem like there's nothing going on is a lot of fun to watch for sure, but it's especially the inclusion of Teddy McGiggles. I mean, this is such a fun character. Like I said, he's very much an asshole, but he also is someone that the kids are very much into. They don't expect to see him on this trip, so he gets kind of like stuck with them, and Teddy McGiggles is that guy that, you know, when you talk about the worst person to be trapped with an apocalypse, Teddy McGiggles very much comes to mind. He's someone who really only cares about himself. He complains pretty much on non-stop. I mean, he complains about literally everything under the sun. There's a whole scene where he launches into this whole rant about various mothers that he's had sexual relations with, and it's probably one of the funniest scenes of the entire year. And again, it's not just due to Josh Gad, it's just because of how great the writing was for that character and how they really don't take him all that seriously. And I just really enjoyed what they did with that character for sure, whether it was that or his constant obsession with the Terminator. I mean, stuff like that was just so fun to watch, and I really did appreciate that for sure. So like I said, the writing here I think is very well done. Again, they do a really good job of, you know, not taking it too seriously, but also getting us to care for these characters like Dave and like Miss Caroline, which I really did appreciate here. But the film also does have a surprising amount of heart to it. Like I said, Dave has been through a lot, as has Miss Caroline, but especially for Dave, I mean, the opening moments of this movie is probably some of the most raw I've seen all year. It's probably one of my favorite opening scenes. It's this very devastating opening montage of us seeing this couple argue and seeing how things are continually going south for them and how David really feels like he's messed up there. And again, at first, a lot of this is played for laughs with Miss Caroline, where clearly at first he's just trying to use her as like a rebound or whatever. But again, like I said, as the film goes on, he genuinely does start to care for her. There's a really sweet scene, especially. It's really good stuff. The film really does do a lot to get you to care about these characters. There's one scene, especially with Dave, in the third act of this movie that honestly kind of brought me to tears. I didn't cry or anything, but it did get me a little bit misty-eyed for sure. I mean, it was a very emotional scene, and that's not something that you would expect to say considering the way the movie starts off and makes you think this is just going to be like a raunchy comedy. They do a really good job with getting you to develop these characters, and I really did appreciate that for sure. There's a lot of great running gags, though, as I said as well. There's a really great one with him and the character Felix, this kid that he really starts to become like a father figure towards, which I really did love seeing. I mean, at first, this is a very forced bond because of his sister's insistence that he has to protect him, but as the film goes on, you see he really starts to care for him, and this running gag with him I just thought was so great. And a lot of the comedy does come from, you know, both Miss Caroline and Dave trying to protect these kids and the various efforts that they go to. And they go to some pretty crazy lengths to do so, but it also makes for some of the most heartwarming moments in the movie. And that's the thing with this film, is that yes, it is very funny, but its heart is always in the right place, and that's something else I really appreciate about it. And it's a really feel-good film, and that's not something you'd expect to say about a zombie apocalypse, but that's what really makes this stick out, is just how charming it really all is in that way, and I really did appreciate that for sure. It's so delightful and fun, and the cinematography here is actually really good. Even though, yes, we don't see a lot of the zombies, the makeup is actually really strong. For a film that is clearly very low budget, they actually did do a really good job with that, and the third act especially, I mean, like I said, it's very much on the back burner for a lot of it, but the third act especially really does go all out, and it makes for a very exciting climax for sure, and a lot of that really is due to the cinematography. But the score here is also so delightful. It really puts you into that very cheery mood, and that's something that I really did appreciate for sure. And then the editing to this film, I think this film was overall very well paced. I do think maybe there could have been 10 or so more minutes to it, but I overall did really enjoy it. In terms of flaws, I don't really have a ton. I will say, whenever we cut back to the people that perpetrated this apocalypse, because there is a reasoning for it, I didn't really like that as much. I get what they were trying to do, but I didn't really feel like the satire really fit into this movie as well as they wanted it to. It's not a huge part of the film or anything, but I just wasn't really into that part of the movie. And there is a romance in the film that I did feel was a little bit forced. I liked where they were going, but it did feel a little bit forced and not as well delved into as it could have. Other than that, though, Little Monsters is easily one of the most entertaining films of the entire year. It's a film that I really can't recommend enough, and it's one of those films where, you know, people say that you can't really do a lot of original stuff with a zombie film. This movie proves that is very much not the case. There's a lot here that you're just not expecting for it to be. It's far more wholesome. It's far more charming than you really are expecting. Lupita Nyong'o, Alexander England, and Josh Gad really do give it their all here, and it makes for probably one of the most fun watches of the entire year that I really hope people do check out. And I am going to give Little Monsters overall a B+. So overall, guys, in my review of Little Monsters, if you guys have seen this movie, let me know what you guys thought of it, and please check this out, guys. Look, I know that El Camino is probably really great. I am going to watch that eventually. I just need to watch the rest of Breaking Bad. I know I haven't, but don't worry, I will get on that eventually. But I know that is pretty great, and I know a lot of people are watching that, but please don't let that film, make you ignore this, because I think this is a film that is very much worth